And thank you so much for being here this evening. This is really important to myself and the rest of the folks that are up here, as well as the school district, to have this meeting. To start off, I do want to let you know I'm Aurora Martinez-Jones. I am a member of the task force that has been doing the work on safety and security for Round Rock ISD. I am also a parent of Round Rock ISD kids, and I am a judge for Travis County. So tonight I'll be assisting us have this conversation, and I have a few things that I want to go over to let you guys know how things will go and the purpose of why we really are excited to be here with you all. So to start off with, I did want to give you a little bit of context on the group that you see before us. Everybody up here is on the task force, and Ms. Lisa Moore, who you will hear from a little bit later, is our chair. On June 21st of 2018 is when the Round Rock ISD Board of Trustees did pass a resolution that put this group together. And it wasn't until February 28th of 2019 that this task force got the title of Safety and Security. Now, the Board of Trustees meetings and those resolutions that brought this group together and gave us the title of Safety and Security are available online on the Round Rock ISD website, and you can go view those and read those things for yourself. And as a safety and security task force, we are made up of community members just like you all. Parents, teachers, we've come together to try and assist the school district in the topic of safety and security. And so tonight is our opportunity to make sure we're encompassing the entire community's voice. And that's what our purpose is. We're going to use the feedback that you give us to prepare a report for the Board of Trustees on options for safety and security in our schools. But I want to make sure everybody understands, as this task force works to bring together those options, it is the Board of Trustees who will be making any final decisions about safety and security in our schools. And so, since we are a group of community members, we are not prepared today to make any comments or answer any questions on behalf of Round Rock ISD. We're here to get information from you all to help us provide the most robust community voice to the Board of Trustees. If you do have a question, you can share that question by sending it to the email address safetytaskforce@roundrockisd.org, and it will be up on the presentation. You can see it up there. That's the best place to send your question. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to start by first having our chair give a short presentation to give you a little bit more of an understanding about the work we've been doing as a task force. After that short presentation, we're going to start hearing from anybody who wants to speak. As you came in and signed up, you should have let us know if you want to speak. And I'm going to be getting your names and calling you in the order in which we received your sign-in. If you decide later on that you do want to speak, just make sure you go and sign in so I can get your name to call you so that you can have time to speak. I just want to remind people also that when you do speak, you should not be directing your comments at any individual person, but to the task force as a whole. We are community members and not prepared to answer any questions on behalf of Round Rock ISD. Again, the Board of Trustees is making that final decision about safety and security, and the board meetings are available and open to the public and also online. So those dates and times are posted on the Round Rock ISD website. Also, if you would like to speak and you're not quite sure what you would like to say, at the end of the presentation, the task force came up with some questions for the community, and you can answer one of those questions. You don't have to answer those questions if you don't want to, but it's an opportunity for us to hear from you guys about some of the things we would like to make sure we understand from the community's perspective. Everybody is going to be given 3 minutes to speak, and then we're going to move on to the next person. If you do not use your entire time, that's okay, but you cannot give it to somebody else. Everybody's only going to get 3 minutes. You'll get a 30-second warning from these tables here, and then we will definitely move on to the next person. Also, anyone who disrupts the meeting with their words or their actions will be given a warning, and if your disruption is preventing us from continuing, you will be removed. So hopefully we won't have that situation, but I did want to give you all that notice. If when you are speaking, you could start just by saying your first name and whether you're affiliated with the school through being a parent, a teacher, administrator, or just a community member. That would be helpful for us. You don't have to, but that would be very helpful. We're all going to be taking notes about the comments that you make at this meeting. This is going to be recorded and streamed on the Facebook page for the Round Rock ISD. And we are going to then take all of your comments and all of your feedback, and we're really going to make sure we go through it thoroughly when we present the options to the board. Again, this is the best email address that you should use if you have questions or other comments that maybe you didn't get to. And I just want to say thank you, everybody, for being here. It's very important that we have community engagement, and I'm very thankful for you all spending your time here with us this evening. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Ms. Moore and the presentation.
I want to be very brief with you this evening because we want to hear from you. We want to save all the time for your comments. And I do want to let you all know that if you've not been keeping up, we're glad that you're here tonight, but if you've not been keeping up, there is a way that you can kind of go back and start keeping up with us. Our meetings since December have been on Engage Round Rock, and you can start watching any continued meetings that we have on Engage Round Rock. We meet every other Monday evening. That's been our schedule, essentially since last August. And you can also go to the Board of Trustees meetings and see the presentations that we have made on those. So that would help you to understand our presentations. The last presentation that we gave to the Board of Trustees was on the April 18th meeting. So if you go to that, I'm going to give you a very condensed version tonight of what we have been up to. So, but if you go to that, you can see that presentation in its entirety. And really, if you don't know what has been going on, the catalyst that really kind of started all of this was that Round Rock ISD did receive notification from the city of Round Rock that starting in the school year 2021, that they would no longer provide what we call student resource officers. And it's very difficult to talk about some things and not talk about all of it, so I'm going to be really brief here. Then again, we talked about how on June the 21st, the board adopted a resolution, and I will let you all read that, and the direction of that was we were brought together to determine if Round Rock ISD should form their own police department or not. Then at the February 28th Board of Trustee meetings, that resolution was revised, and it was revised to basically become a task force for the security and safety of Round Rock ISD students and teachers, and that our charge was to provide the Board of Trustees with 3 to 5 options for the safety and security of students and teachers in Round Rock ISD. Yes, I'm sorry, that's 2019. That's correct. We have been, like I said, we have been meeting since last August, and pretty much between August and December, we had a lot of presentations, a lot of groups were brought in to speak with us, to give us subject matter expertise, and it really was in December that we were really able to begin to collaborate with each other. That was really the first time. So even though we've had a lot of meetings, our collaboration really did not start until probably December timeframe. And even going into the new year, we've continued to have speakers come talk with us and across the board for various things. One of the things that you might hear about is something that this task force has developed called our non-negotiables. At the request of the Board of Trustees, we are going to rename that to be something a little bit more understandable by the district and the Board of Trustees. But what those basically boil down to are what these key topics are here. And that's institutional racism, disproportionate outcomes for students of color, students with special needs, equity, mental health, training, and oversight. And so what this task force believes these to be, when we call them non-negotiables, is that these are overarching principles that the district is responsible for. We believe that that these are critical areas that the district today can start doing something about. These stand alone for the district. And when we develop our options, all of these areas will have an overlay to the options, both the pro and the con. For each option, we will address these areas. We've also made recommendations already to the district, like I said, that they can start doing some things about these options, including budgeting. So this also includes the district from a top down saying that these things are important and embracing these things, and that's why we call them non-negotiables. They have everything to do with the district, and we believe that the district has the overall control over these areas. We wanted to be sure that everyone knew what is a school resource officer. I don't really want to read this to you, so if you'll just take a moment to read it to yourself. Is everybody good? Need more time? Say more. All right. We're very excited that you're here tonight. We want to hear from you, and as Judge Aurora said, if in the course of the evening you would like to go sign up to speak, you do need to go over here and, as best as you can around the cameras, exit and go sign up. Oh, okay. Oh, the table is right over there. Sign-up table is right over there. Go ahead and go sign up. We will start off, because I think we only have maybe a few over 10 people sign up right now. We will start off with 3 minutes. When you come up to speak, if you would like, we'd like your feedback. If you want to answer any one of these questions, you can. If you want to answer one of these and give your feedback as well that you've prepared, that's fine. But we'd love for you to answer any one of our questions or all of them if you come up to speak. So we will commence now with our speaking, and Judge Aurora is going to be our facilitator for this evening.
Thank you, Lisa. All right, now for the exciting part. I am very thrilled. I very much want to hear from you guys. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call you up, and I'm going to call you up 2 at a time, though. And we'll go in order just so we can keep it going. So if I can have Kellen Bradford, thank you, ma'am, and Marshall Sprigg over here. And once she's done, we'll get right to you.
Hi, my name is Kellen Bradford. I'm a Westwood parent and have been involved in my schools and community since 2006. I've served on many district committees, so first of all, thank you for your service and all the time and energy you put into this. It's noted and appreciated. When I served on both the boundary and bond committees, what was crucial was having the relevant information to make the decision. On the bond, the cost of the project drove the decisions. On boundaries, it was enrollment numbers. I'm sure the task force has its own parameters. But what are the costs of the proposed PD? I haven't seen it referenced. How will after-school events be handled? How will coverage gaps be addressed? If you only have 5 SROs, 1 per high school, what happens when someone is sick? If we're policing kids, where are the students arrested? Where are the students that are arrested taken? Who prosecutes? What rights do the parents and students have? Where are the checks and balances? What are the expenses located with the PD? Cars, retirement, equipment, additional personnel, K-9 units? How much will this cost taxpayers? Why is the current program no longer available? Sheriff Chody can tell you today what it will cost for 18 SROs, a K-9, and a dispatch. I know because I went to visit him and asked him these questions. Why can't we keep Sheriff Chody, monitor the costs, and as a district, work on figuring out the cost of addressing the vital component, which is mental health? Please bear the following facts in mind. The current administration under Dr. Flores has asked the board for an additional $16 million for finishing McNeil due to unforeseen circumstances. Less than 6 months after the 2018 bond passed, the administration asked the board for another $3 to $6 million for portables that should have been on the bond. They spent $20 million taken out of operating fund on a CTE building. And just last week, administration told the board they needed $12 to $14 million to bring teacher salaries into line with the surrounding districts. Moving forward, we need to understand the costs and what sacrifices we might have to make. I'm happy for my tax dollars to go to teachers, maybe not to police force. Sadly, if you have unforeseen circumstances in an RRISD police force, it could mean someone's life. Are we really willing to gamble this administration with its track record to get a PD right? We need the players back at the table. If I have any couple seconds, I'm a Westwood parent. He's here, our SRO. He makes our kids feel safe. My kids have had dealings with him. It's always been not stressful and I wouldn't say pleasurable, but he's always done his job. And I think it's important to have them on campus, the SROs, especially on high schools. I'm not going to speak to elementary or middle, but as a high school parent, it makes me feel better knowing that they're on there. In the event that something happens, we just had a lockdown a couple weeks ago. It was handled beautifully by Sheriff Chody, our staff, and Officer Willoughby and his SROs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bradford. Mr. Sprigg.
Good
And
evening.
hold
My
on
name
just
is-
one moment. Let me go ahead and have Marcia Sanders come on up to this mic.
Good evening. My name is Marshall Sprigg. I'm a community member, and I live in the Round Rock High School learning community. First off, I'd like to thank all the members of the task force because I know serving on a committee takes a lot of time and effort. I also very much appreciate that you're trying to look at a comprehensive solution rather than just simply rubber stamp the creation of a police department. I've served on the Citizens Bond Committee this last go-round, and I know how much time and effort it takes, and I have been following your work with great interest, so thank you very much. Secondly, I'd like to mention that I'm one of many members of the community who believe that we should continue the relationship with the Williamson County Sheriff's Office, have them provide the SROs rather than establish a district police department. Won't take any position on where the SROs should be or how many there should be, although I do agree that my inclination is that high school is the highest priority for that. We have a petition that's being circulated that is asking for people to support the following language. Quote, "We support continued use of the Williamson County Sheriff's Office as the long-term provider of school resource officers for Round Rock ISD's SRO program. We oppose establishment of a Round Rock ISD police department," unquote. For those who are here, I can give you a copy of this. It has a link to the petition. But I'll just share briefly what I think the four major areas of concern are about having a police department. First of all, I think there's going to be difficulty attracting and retaining the best personnel due to lack of career opportunities and resulting gaps in coverage due to attrition. I believe the costs will be higher because the district PD will have to replicate infrastructure and administrative overhead that the sheriff's office already has. Third, I believe there will be reduced accountability and transparency by concentrating power under the superintendent, who will control the narrative about crime and safety in schools. And fourth, I think there's an increased potential for SROs under a district PD to be drawn into disciplinary matters, which is not their proper role and contributes to anxiety among students and parents. Finally, I know a lot has been made about this letter from April 25th, jointly signed by Judge Gravel and Mayor Morgan. In my opinion, the Williamson County Commissioners will not abandon the children of Round Rock ISD if the Board of Trustees votes to continue the relationship with the Sheriff's Office. So please don't fall victim to basing everything on the existence of that letter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sprague. If I can have Ms. Pamela Oldham come on up to this mic, and Ms. Sanders, you may begin.
Hi, my name is Marcia Sanders, and I am here as a concerned citizen of Round Rock. I support the Round Rock ISD Police Department. I feel that we should not be, solely dependent on the SROs. From what I understand, the SROs don't belong to the district. That, what happens if they're called in the community? Where does that leave the safety of the children? And as a parent, as an African-American parent that's raising an African-American son, and with everything that's going on nationally, I feel that having a Round Rock Round Rock police officer having the police department inside the school can have a relationship with my son. As a young African American, I encourage him to have a relationship with the police officers. That way he will know how to deal with them out in the community. So as a parent, I feel like it's very important to have the Round Rock ISD department. And you can't put a cost on that, to me, to have the safety of them being there.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders. All right, if I could have Dexter come up to this mic, and Ms. Oldham, you can begin.
I'm Pamela Oldham. I'm a resident in Round Rock ISD, community member and activist. I wanted to fill in the timeline that you saw. This didn't start in June of 2018. It actually started in May 2017 when the district came before the board at a workshop where few members of the public usually attend, and they waved around a 4-page slide deck saying how easy it would be to get the police department set up, and that they had received a letter from the city of Round Rock saying they would cut off, they were getting out of the SRO business. They didn't have the letter, thank goodness, because they probably would have voted on it the following month. And thereafter, community members observed at board meetings and spoke at board meetings, so usually at midnight or later. The meeting on June 21st was attended by more than 100 people who were against the police department. The task force was formed because the African American community, the Hispanic community, and special ed community was outraged by not being involved at all. So that is how this began. They've continued that kind of thing. That I've also observed that we started out with a PD proposal, and then we expanded, rightly so, to other areas of safety and security that really are much more crucial than talking about an external threat that might come in someday, maybe, somehow. But that said, what we're seeing now is the district has put out media releases. That's why these folks are here. We're all going to talk about the PD again. We need to be talking about mental health support. Right now, the ratio for counselors to students in Round Rock ISD is nearly 3 times less than the nationally suggested average. The students and parents at the most recent number 23 shooting in the United States, they were screaming about just a couple days ago on CNN and other media outlets that mental health was the #1 thing that was needed, and I agree. It's not just me, it's all of the documentation from any research study that has been done. ISD police departments and more police don't fix the problem. They react to a shooter or a shooting incident, and as we see, even an SRO present is not going to be able to stop them. At Santa Fe, 2 SROs on that campus, 10 children killed. Not to say anything against the SROs, but we have to start at the beginning with mental health, starting in elementary school. There is an entire list of other pieces of the pie that this task force should be dealing with first, not last, on Engage Round Rock.
Thank you, Ms. Oldham. If I can have Chris Kinman up to this microphone. And Dexter, you may begin.
Yes, I'm a citizen of Round Rock since 1998. I agree with the Round Rock Police Department forming their own police department. With that being said, it's no different than us as community, in the community. We all have to have some type of insurance on our vehicles. My deal is this, having insurance with these kids, making sure these kids are safe. And we have to have the right type of insurance. With that being said, is that nothing to the other law enforcement agencies around here, but if something would happen in the community, if you don't have a designated law enforcement agency designed for the district, if a major incident happened, you'll be left alone with no one there watching your kids, because what happens is the county or the sheriff or the city will pull their officers and the kids will be left alone. So my main deal is that, you know, money can't bring back a price tag on a kid's life, but what we need to do is be more vigilant as a community and go with the police department. Thank you.
Thank you, Dexter. If I can have Esmeralda Rubalcava Hernandez here. And Mr. Kinman, you can begin.
Hi, I'm Chris Kinman. I'm a parent in the Stony Point feeder pattern. I've attended the majority of task force meetings, so I know the task force has been told not to consider costs. I understand the reason for this, but I also think it's important to have an idea of purchasing power to make a well-informed decision. The reason I think cost is important at this time is because the quality of officers has been the importance of to the task force. So I want to give you a really quick breakdown of costs. In order to provide one officer per middle school, one at each alternative high school, and two at each of the traditional high schools, we would need 24 officers. Any police department will have a chief and dispatchers. These are currently provided by Wilco as part of the extra 10% of the 110% officers cost quoted by Sheriff Chody and Judge Gravel. Using the numbers provided to the board on June 7th, 2018 by Dr. Presley, the fully burdened rate of 24 SROs, one chief, and two dispatchers would be $2.3 million. This number does not include extra officers to fill in for absences, trainings, any sort of capital expenditures. This is purely salary and benefits. While I do not know the specifics of Sheriff Chody's offer, $2.5 million has been the number frequently touted, so I'm using that number for my base assumptions. The average student to officer ratio in Austin ISD is about 970 to 1. In Bastrop ISD, it's closer to 1,000 to 1. This would bring us closer to 52 SROs, which is more likely the number to account for time away for officers, various other issues that would be needed within a department. If we pay all 52 SROs out at the June 7th rates, the fully burdened tab would come to $4.7 million, or 201% the base minimum number of officers required. If we were to use the 52 officers, but use pay to reflect the $2.5 million from Wilco, the average officer would make only $30,352. To put that in perspective, Lakeline Mall security officers start out making $31,500 a year. As a task force, you will end up deciding what you feel is best. I just feel that while cost isn't a priority to the decision, I do feel the quality of officers should be a major priority. I believe a continued relationship with the Williamson County Sheriff's Office is the best option for Round Rock ISD.
Thank you, Mr. Kinman. If I could have Barbara Beto up to this microphone. And Ms. Hernandez, you can begin.
Thank you all for being here. I appreciate that you are listening to us. Firstly, I want to start off by saying that the evidence shows that schools with school resource officers had 5 times the rate of arrest for disorderly conduct as schools without SROs. And disorderly conduct is not defined. So do we really want to incarcerate our children for being children? What we need right now is mental health professionals, including school social workers. Round Rock ISD does not employ social workers, which greatly harms many populations, including LGBT students, students of color, students with disabilities. They could help Round Rock ISD by looking at the systemic issues, which include racism and implicit bias, not only in resource officers, but also with teachers and administration. We need support for parents as well. I'd like to ask if there's an interpreter here, ASL, Spanish, different other languages, and if not, why not? So I also want to say that counselors, while we do have them at the schools, They are not social workers. They are not trained the same or even close to the same. They are necessary, but again, they are not social workers. I am a parent, and my children go to Forest Creek Elementary. These children at the elementary level are being punished by making them exercise, which is not even allowed in the military anymore. We are also a military family, so that's something that we know as well. A social worker or other licensed mental health care professional could help the schools, not only elementary, but middle school and high school, find different kinds of ways to deal with children instead of calling the police, because children should not be afraid to go to school for any reason. They should not be afraid to act in a way that is developmentally appropriate to them, though at the same time might not be perceived as such by school administrators or teachers. We need to make sure that we are using evidence-based practices in order to make sure that our children are thriving, graduating, and moving on to college. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. If I can have Randall Goldsmith up to this microphone, and Ms. Beto, you can begin.
It's Beto. I'm Barbara
Beto, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. And I've been a parent in Round Rock ISD since 2004, and I solely and openly authored the petition, Parents Want Safety and Security Options for Round Rock ISD, which has reached 500 signatures tonight. I asked parents and my friends and neighbors what they knew about Round Rock ISD starting a police force, and none of them had any idea, which is why I did it. I wanted to bring awareness and start a conversation. I wanted to bring awareness that one single county judge's opinion seems to carry more weight with the Board of Trustees than the input of 50,000 parents who know what is best for our children. Awareness that the previous commitment from the county sheriff's office and his commitment to provide security for our children. And awareness that the task force wants to continue their work to make a meaningful contribution to one of the most emotionally charged and resource-intensive decisions this district has ever debated. As a parent that has served on countless district committees, I believe in the work of this task force. I believe that if you are given the autonomy and the open discussion and debate with the data that you have been given, with the full cooperation of all contributing juvenile justice and mental health authorities and related experts, that you will bring forward options that are thoughtful, inclusive, and good for Round Rock ISD kids. The task force needs all agencies stepping up to say, here's how I can help, not here's what I can't do. We all know that the safest communities are those that work together. I want to share with you quickly some of the high-level concerns that have been shared by parents, both in the comments and the petition that they've sent to me. And one of them is that you need to define SRO. As we've heard here tonight, it's been thrown around loosely. There are scenarios where all parents will support an SRO on the campuses, but they don't really know what that is. There's a scenario where they are mental health, discipline, and help with the students, but there's no criminal and arresting capabilities, and there's a group of parents that support that. There's another group of parents that think that SROs will investigate criminal activity, arrest students, and be part of that. And so it needs to be defined and explained, because those are two different scenarios. For the trustees, because I know you've not been charged with budget, but it is important. What will a Round Rock ISD Police Department cost once we are no longer supported by Round Rock PD and Wilco and ACC? And what does that look like on each campus? What will it cost to continue the relationship with Wilco, and what does that look like on each campus? And for the parents in the room, we want a seat at the table. 500 parents signed a petition because they care and want input. There seems to be quite a bit of push to have the task force present to the BOT quickly and for a quick vote. When we adopt a school calendar in Round Rock ISD, a committee brings forward 2 options. Those options are then given to administration and posted for parents to look and give input on before the board votes on. The task force should at least be given, in parents, the minimum opportunity is the calendar.
Thank you, Ms. Beto.
Adoption is.
Thank you. If I can have Terry Ramir up at this microphone. Mr. Goldsman, you may begin.
Okay. I'm Randall Goldsman, kids at Hopewell and at Stony Point. I am not an activist. I am a huge supporter of the district. and I love living in Round Rock ISD. It's the best district for my kids to be in. The quality of the teachers and the education and the principals and all the way up to the Board of Trustees, Dr. Flores, everyone's amazing. So no one's really gone into those details tonight. And I sat on the Citizen Bond Committee for a couple of years, so I know how hard of a job you guys have. And I'm not going to stand here tell you what you guys need to do because you've been entrusted to be on this committee to make those decisions and help guide and give guidance to the Board of Trustees and Dr. Flores to make the right decision for our families and our kids. So you guys have probably a harder task than trying to pass a bond for the district because it's the safety and welfare of our students and our families. So what else? I was watchdog for 8 years in the district, so I know about going around the schools looking for safety if doors are not locked and different things, and people walking in that don't have badges on and making people go around to the front of the building. And I think that the security that we've increased in our schools is so much better than what it was. So I think it's a really great direction that we're going to have our own SROs that are by the district instead of where if something happens in the community and they have to leave, then we're unprotected. So now we're going to have, colleges have had their own police departments for so many decades. It's about time that school districts have it as well. I've been on PTA for 7 years. Yes, a male has been on PTA. I was president for 3 years at Cherry Vista Elementary. I'm real big on having a voice for my kids, for the school district, for the community, and you guys are doing a really great job. I'm also a Scoutmaster. I'm in Boy Scout leader for 11 years. My son just got Eagle Scout last year, so I'm real big about pushing our kids in the right direction and making a name for themselves so when they grow up to adults that they too can serve on committees like this for the district. And I have full faith in what you guys are doing for our own police department and the recommendations you're going to make to the board and for the decision for the welfare of our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Goldsman. If I can have Esteban Zarate at this mic, and Ms. Ramirez, you can begin.
Hi, I'm Terry Ramirez. I have many hats. I'm a former trustee. I've been in the district since 1999 when my daughter was enrolled in preschool for children with disabilities. And I'm also a real estate broker, business owner, taxpayer in the community. And I am here for one reason and one reason only. And that is because the community has begged me to come and speak before the board and before you guys. I have 2 reasons and 2 reasons only to discuss of a multiple of 1,000. I could spend hours telling you why this is not a good idea. It's not a good idea for one reason only. The business of the district is to educate our children. And we do not have the funds right now to start this initiative. The last meeting I attended was a workshop at the ISD where they gave a security audit to the trustees. Not one thing indicated a need for a law enforcement officing our police department in our district. Not one thing. I can speak for Paul, Tish, and we both agree that there was nothing that needed to be addressed at that time. So, money, big thing. I am being told as a member of the community, and trust me, I know a lot of people still in education, they don't have their dollars that they have for budgets for next semester, to plan master schedules. That's huge. They don't have their teacher allocations. They don't have their classroom allocations. You want to know why? Well, I'm going to suspect it's because of this decision. They are asking teachers to sign contracts in which they don't know if they have enough staff to fill the classrooms with an adequate number of teachers. And there's a whole calculation on how that is done. I don't want to waste my time on that because bottom line is they don't have the funds right now to do what they need to do in the classroom and support our teachers. Paramount number 1 reason, education. Law enforcement has been fabulously provided through Williamson County, thank you, officer, and Round Rock PD. I am a very outspoken person. I will give you my opinion. I will fight for your children. I will fight for your tax dollars, and I will fight for teachers. This is taking money away from our kids and away from I'm probably going to go over, sorry. 2 conflict of interest.
I yield 30 seconds to her.
2 conflict of interest here. Number 1, I was a trustee who spoke her mind and asked questions. Not very popular with administration. When the boundary situation came up with Pearson Middle Ranch and redoing all of our middle schools, that was very controversial, and there was a death threat on my life.
Thank you, Ms. Ramir.
Can I give her 30 more seconds?
We can't allocate time to others. Thank you, Ms. Ramir.
All right. Bad idea, conflict of interest. Campus cops are just as corrupt as anything. My daughter is a victim of that.
Thank you, Ms. Ramir.
And I will continue. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Bad idea, vote it down.
Thank you. Thank you. If I could have Krista Tyler at this microphone, and Mr. Zarate, you can
Thank you.
begin.
I just want to, first of all, thank you all for being here. Thank you for,
Closer.
yeah, I've never had that happen. I want to thank y'all for being here tonight and taking your time, everybody. It's very difficult when we have our children and things to worry about to be here for this important subject, but it is important. I want to point out this cat right here has amazing fashion sense. Right there. Okay. Now for this. I have 3 kids. I'm one of those special unicorns that has a child at Pond Springs Elementary, Deer Park Middle School, and McNeil. So I'm very, very active in all of my PTAs. I try my best to be at the school for my littlest all the time. I was just named Volunteer of the Year by Pond Springs, since we're throwing around resumes. Then they're Alejandro, Antonio, and Aaron, okay? I want to echo all the thank yous from everybody. This whole thing is very ill-advised as an issue because it hasn't been fully examined. And that's what really is the problem for this. My problem isn't necessarily with this committee, it's with the board. There's no plan in place for how these dollars will be spent. You're talking about already having taken away money from teachers for their health care. As someone with cirrhosis of the liver, that's awful for you to do that. They need it. Basically, the way I feel about it is if you throw mental health at this issue, it's going to work. Mental health is very important. It's worked around the country at catching children when they're young, identifying them, and making them feel loved, making them feel special, taking care of them, and making us all safer because of it, okay? Now, you're not going to throw guns at guns. It's just a ridiculous idea. Guns shoot, guns kill. It's stupid. Let's see here. I'm a Latino, and in this political climate, I can feel very marginalized. And these SROs that you're talking about bringing in, I want to know what diversity training they have. I want to know if they speak Spanish. I want to know if these people can pronounce my son's names. Okay? There's constituents that can't be here tonight because we have amazing students in this district. They're all at Scouts, they're at Drama Club, they're at Swim Team, they're at all these places. These parents are here taking time away from those students to tell you how important this is to them. My wife has wanted to be here. She can't. We got 3 kids. She's picking them all up. She's like a taxi. Okay? But you have to realize that there are people, the reason this district works is because it's so special and because of all the activity that happens here. And if we work on mental health and we work on loving our children and educating them and not trying to shoot them, man, what a world, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zarate. If I can have Lisa Alvarado here at this mic, and Ms. Tyler, you may begin.
I'm Krista Tyler. I'm a staff member in Round Rock ISD and a member of the Equity Task Force. Oh, hey, this is my daughter Giselle. She want to come up here? So with the Equity Task Force, if you're on that task force, if you could please stand. We have lots of representatives just like you guys do. And we just ask that this task force and the board prioritize racial equity in every step of this process. For example, how are these decisions going to impact all of our students of color, all of our students who feel marginalized, especially by the police inside and outside of our schools. So again, just prioritize racial equity in this entire process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tyler. If I can have Sean Dempsey at this microphone, and Ms. Alvarado, you can begin.
Hi, I'm a parent of a Cedar Valley Middle School student and a McNeil High School student, And thank you for your service here, everybody. And I would like to say I do support continuing having Williamson County Sheriff's Department as part of the safety for our students. My Cedar Valley student, there was the school shooter thing going on last week, and it's frightening to deal with that. And you have a question as a parent, what makes you feel your students are safe or unsafe? Getting out of that car last week, every day of the week, and having Williamson County Sheriff's deputies there, that made my student feel safe. It made a difference to me, to my student. Another thing I'd like to say is, as far as the high schools go, this hasn't been addressed, but there's a lot of overcrowding in the high schools. And students don't feel safe due to this overcrowding. I would like to see an increased, like a district-wide policy on a standardized policy on safety in the hallways of the high schools. So instead of it being left to students, I want the administration and the staff to deal with the overcrowding in the high schools. Because right now, it's just the principals telling students, you deal with it, it's up to you, tell other students to move along and not to bother you. If you could have a standardized policy that deals with those conflicts before it goes to the SRO, that would be helpful. That gives the SRO room to do what they need to do as far as protecting the school and the students. And do a standardized policy and have the administration and the staff deal with the students and facilitate that so that the students aren't left feeling unsafe within their own halls of the schoolway. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarado. If I could have Reverend Chuck Freeman at this microphone, and Ms. Dempsey, you can begin.
Hi, my name is Shawn Dempsey. I'm mom to 2 children in the district in the Round Rock feeder pattern. I want to speak about the importance of having law enforcement in schools. I believe that an SRO program is vital in schools. That needs to be an SRO program, not just any officer off the streets. Officers in our schools need advanced training on mental health, on child development, and on de-escalation. Our best police officers in the county should be in our schools. They should be in there every day building relationships with those children. These relationships will help children when they are fighting with all the things that happen in schools today. We have kids in fights, we have stealing, we have drugs, we have smoking, we have truancy, we have assault, we have sexual assault. I mean, this happens every day somewhere. These officers need to build trust so that when these things do happen, the children know where to go to find help. And then when that trust is developed, should the worst happen, they know where to go. They have the trust to go to the officers when there's a serious threat. I don't feel strongly about how this happens. I feel strongly that there needs to be SROs. If the district takes this on, the district needs to have an oversight committee to monitor what the police force does. If the sheriff takes this on, the sheriff needs to commit that there will be officers in the schools. He has not put officers in all the schools. I think the sheriff's great. We live in a safe community, but he has to commit to putting officers in the schools, and those officers need that advanced training, and they need to be SROs. And frankly, the district should have a task force monitoring what's going on with those officers too. My brother is a teacher at McNeil High School. He says that if you think that there don't need to be officers in schools, you really don't understand how a high school operates on a day-to-day basis. It's not the teacher's job to be breaking up fights. It's not the teacher's job to deal with theft. Teachers are there to educate, and teachers need to be kept safe too. My brother and his wife are both teachers in this district, and they deserve to come home to their families too. I thank you for your service and working on this. I think this is a very thankless job. I think that you can make a decision. I have faith that you can make a good decision and keep our children safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dempsey. If I can have Shiva Pulyala at this microphone over here, and Reverend Freeman, you may begin.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Reverend Chuck Freeman, minister of Free Souls Church here in Round Rock, co-founder and co-chair of Undoing Racism Round Rock. I've been privileged to attend 90% of the task force meetings, and I want to thank Chair Lisa Moore and the task force for making this a real citizen-led effort. The iconic spiritual teacher Jesus told a sobering parable, and the scene is the final judgment where he says, you guys are going to make it to heaven, you guys didn't make the cut. The people didn't make the cut were the ones who he said did not minister to and pay attention to the least of these. In Round Rock ISD, the least of these are not being treated fairly. Students of color and special education pupils receive discretionary discipline 33 to 55% more often than their white counterparts. Tragically, the behaviors in our school district are consistent with a national study of schools conducted by the ACLU and published in a March 2019 report just a few months ago titled Cops and Counselors, How the Lack of School Mental Health Staff is Harming Students. Their report concludes no data indicates that police in schools either improve students' mental health, educational outcomes, or their safety. Indeed, in many cases, they are causing harm. So I commend this report to the task force and will provide it to Chair Lisa Moore. I do not support Round Rock ISD having a police department in any shape, form, or fashion. I do strongly support requiring the school board and all staff to be educated in institutional racism, increasing mental health professionals in our schools 4 to 8 times the current staffing, all staff and students learning mediation, nonviolent communication, and de-escalation skills, practicing restorative justice in all Round Rock ISD schools. The role of law enforcement is not to be a presence in the schools, but in responding to the rare occurrence of violent or active shooter incidents. Let me remind you that in Parkland, Florida, and in Santa Fe, Texas, they both had their own police departments in the schools. Instead of criminalizing our students of color and the least of these, Round Rock ISD can be a national leader in real school safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Freeman. If I can have Paul Matthews at this microphone, and Mr. Pulyala, you can start.
First of all, my name is Shiva Pulyala, and I have a kid in Cedar Valley Middle School.
Can you scoot a little closer to the microphone? Thank you.
And first of all, right, I want to thank everybody, this committee and community to be involved in this important topic. I think in the day and age we are in, I think one question growing up, right, when did we start thinking about all this, policing and being safe at school, being shot at school? But unfortunately, we are in this world where that's a reality, right? I think nobody can deny that with all the events going on. So last week was probably not the best of the week for a lot of parents who had kids in schools with the Liberty Hill thing going on, the Cedar Valley Middle School event which went on, and a few other things, right? So the reality is that we are living in a world where things are happening, and things are happening around us where for the worst of your nightmares, we are losing lives of kids. So the question now is, how do we all, as a community, as educators, as leaders, and our elected representatives come to the table with an open mind and solve this problem, right? There is no denying that fact. So coming to answer one of the questions which is up here, again, actually I thought this is one of the least forum where I thought I would be one day coming and speaking to a committee and stuff on school security, but that's what it is, right? So it is important. I think in the world we are living in, it's important to have law enforcement present at school, and I will leave this to the qualified people of our board, of our educators, of our task force and community to come up with a solution. But maybe if it's not, again, I think I have to, I cannot say big thanks to Sheriff Chody and his, team who did a fantastic job last week of keeping the community safe, the schools safe, and of all the things, communicating every step of the way to, remove the fears of the parents. Great job. Again, right? So I think there's no denying the fact that these are the most qualified and well-trained professionals. But at the same time, maybe we can supplement their work with having, a department within the ISD. Again, we cannot put money or dollars against kids' lives. Even one child we lose, it's not worth all the money we save, period, right? But at the same time, we just as a community have to come together and keep our community and safe. One last
Thank
point
you.
I wanted to add
Thank
was...
you, Mr. Pulyala. Thank you. Your time
maybe
is
we
up.
should start looking into having...
Mr. Pulyala, your time is up.
Metal detectors at schools. That's
Mr.
one point I
Pulyala?
forgot that I should make. And that's something my wife asked to make sure that I put this out in this forum.
Thank you, Mr. Pulyala. All right, if I can have Gary Humphrey at that microphone, and Mr. Matthews, you can begin.
Good evening. My name is Paul Matthews. I am a father in the district with one student, and one will be starting in the fall. Yeah, can you hear me better? Okay. I want to echo a point that Terry Romero made, because it's the purpose that we have a school district. It's to educate our kids and not to run a police force. I'm in complete support of continuing an SRO program with the Sheriff's Office, and the reason is it works. How do I know this? Because for the past decade, I've served as the finance director for the Travis County Sheriff's Office, and we have SROs in Eanes, Del Valley, Lake Travis, Manor, and now Leander ISDs. There's been a lot of assertions tonight that if some event were to happen, that sheriff's officers are going to pull out of the schools. That is hogwash. That is a complete fallacy. We routinely have officers who are sick. We have backup SROs. We have a relief factor. And if that relief factor gets utilized, and sometimes it does, because when you've got SROs in schools, they're germ factories, as you know. Kids get sick. We have officers out all the time with flu and that type of thing. If we have a shortage of an officer, we pull a patrol officer and put him to fill that backfill that position. So this assertion that somehow, if we go with continue with Williamson County, that we're going to have holes in the system is a fallacy. Now, there may be a fallacy of the fact that there may be an issue with pay. And one of the things that this task force better, if you're going to put a police force in fact, you better hire a couple of extra HR people. Because once they get their TCO license and you're paying them $40,000, I guarantee you they'll be coming over to work at the sheriff's office in Travis County or Austin PD, where the pay is substantially higher, because that's what happens all the time. The other thing I want to point out is we had an incident last week in my feeder pattern, Cedar Valley. And the only reason that situation was fixed and solved as quickly it wasn't because there was 5 SROs that potentially could be working in the school district that did it. No, it was a coordinated effort between the sheriff's office, the detectives that they have at the sheriff's office, and you better be hiring detectives. You guys have no idea what you're doing when it comes to budgeting for a sheriff's office. You are grossly inadequately staffing this. You're going to have detectives, relief factors, dispatch relief factors, sergeant, lieutenants, etc. We have no business getting into opening this up, because we don't know what in the world we're doing, and based on the stuff that's come out of the school district from a budget standpoint, has proved positive of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. If I could have Makita Johnson at this microphone, Currently, Ms. Johnson, you're the last person I have scheduled to speak. If anybody is thinking about speaking, if you could go fill out a card. I've got one additional one. Just wanted to give you the heads up that we're coming to the end of the scheduled speakers. And Mr. Humphrey, you may begin.
I just wanted to comment on what I'm hearing over and over again, and it's referring to relationships. I grew up in Wichita Falls, Texas. Down the street from my house lived a police officer. I went to college. I majored in criminal justice. I had an internship with the Wichita Falls Police Department. I worked for Texas Department of Public Safety for 23 years. I retired from the state of Texas with 27 years. I'm currently teaching criminal justice in high school. You all are speaking about creating relationships. The relationship starts with a plan. If you all can decide on how you want to govern your school system and have a police department either within the school system or currently use outside resources, the key thing is having relationships among students and those officers, because that's what allowed me to become a police officer and work for 23 years. I know some are concerned with police officers having issues with minorities, and I can attest to that. I have worked with some officers that did have issues with minorities. So your concerns are valid and they're real. But the key thing that you all need to understand and need to really try to process here is creating a relationship that's going to be consistent and have some continuity. You just heard the gentleman speak before me. He said when there's not an officer available, they will move someone in and to replace that officer. Well, if you all have your own police department here, then you can always have people available that know the system, know what to do, know how to respond to situations that arises, as opposed to having someone that's just filling in for the first time and is unaware. So as you all go through this process, the key thing that you all need to understand is that you have to have a mission, you have to have continuity, and you have to be concerned with being able to provide a relevant response time to any situation that it may arise. We are in the business of protecting children and educating children at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Humphrey. If I can have Anita Fry at that microphone. And Ms. Johnson, you may begin.
My name is Makita, and I am a parent. I have 3 boys in the district. And one of the things that I haven't heard really from anybody tonight is a voice for the children who are special education. I have 3 boys. 2 of them are special education. One of them has a cognitive skills delay, and the other one has what we call an invisible disability because it's a mental disability. And my concern is what happens. So let me just back up. My oldest son just got his license. And on his license, we had to have a special provision put that says he has a cognitive skills delay. So that way, anytime he's stopped by an officer, the officer looks at his license and understands that he has an auditory processing delay as well. So he may not respond the first time. What happens to my child at school? Is a school resource officer going to stop him and say, hold on, wait, let me see your ID, and then check it and then know what to do? Because as it stands now, millions of police officers don't know what to do with special needs people, adults. So how can I be convinced that school resource officers are just going to come in knowing what to do with children who have special needs? What's going to happen to my youngest son who's 10 years old and has an anxiety disorder that causes his adrenaline system to shut down so that he freezes and he can't speak and he can't move because it shuts down his executive functioning? What's going to happen to my child? I'll tell you what will happen to my child. I know that the school that he's currently in, they're not equipped to deal with my child. Many people are not equipped to deal with him. What's going to convince me that a school resource officer is going to be able to help him is that they have adequate training, is that they are listening and educating themselves on children with mental health disabilities, on children who don't act or look like other children. We have this idea that children are just supposed to run and be free and play and listen and sit and stop and do all that, but sometimes they just can't. Sometimes
their thought processes don't work the same way that ours do. So for me, what would make me feel safe is knowing that there's school resource officers who are trained, as well as teachers, as well as administrators. Because I'll tell you, my 10-year-old last fall was threatened by a school administrator. If you don't stop, I'm gonna call the police on you. Is that what you want? You want me to call the police? You want me to call the police on you? That is what she said to my 10-year-old child. So what we need is to have school resource officers who address mental health issues and who are aware that these things happen to children. They're not just adult problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. If I can have Elizabeth Beaulieu at this microphone, and Ms. Fry, you can begin.
Okay. Thank you, task force members, for serving. Just listening to the things tonight, it's obvious that we need options. I know that's one of the things that you guys were tasked to do, and that hasn't necessarily happened, not by your own. You need help getting those options. So we need options and time to develop and research those options. We need to know, is Round Rock ISD seeking to enhance what we already have or replace what we already have? If Round Rock ISD is going to replace, why? That seems like a waste of our limited resources. Many people in the district would like to move to a system where we have no officers on campuses. And I agree, that would be fabulous, but we're not ready right now. FBI data on school shootings thus far shows that in all circumstances there were warning signs, that the student shooters were in distress. The warning signs were there, but the response safety net clearly failed. I'd rather spend our resources developing that safety net. I believe public schools should operate in service to the community, like a children's triage on behalf of the community. Where else do children routinely get seen by adults outside of their homes? We need to work with our communities to establish a community safety net, to identify our children in distress and to provide the services that those children need. Because it's not just about stopping school shootings. We all know that's simply a geography issue. Shootings can happen anywhere. We must work with our community and our elected officials to develop options, and we need time to do that. This decision should not be made fast, and it should be made in conjunction with parents and taxpayers and the community at large. Please know that the community is counting on you. We have to get this right.
Thank you, Ms. Fry. If I can have Matt Sharilla at that microphone there, and you may begin, Ms. Beaulieu.
Okay, thank you. It's Elizabeth Beaulieu, not
Beaulieu. Thank
yeah,
you, ma'am.
Thanks. Sorry. So I have a kindergartner at Jollyville, and this is a whole new time in parenting. They had their lockdown drills, and that just scares the hell out of me. I mean, that whole idea of thinking of these kindergartners crouched in front of their cubbies and thinking that they're playing hide and seek with the principal, that kind of blows my mind. I didn't grow up with that, so I'm not sure how to parent that, to be perfectly honest. But having a police officer in the school adds a whole new level for me. As a woman of color, as a Latina, my son is mostly brown. Not totally, but I mean, it's there. In the summer, it gets browner. So, but at the end of the day, you know, we kind of run into that issue of, are they going to target him because he is brown? And, you know, the school to prison pipeline is a real thing. And so that's a very big concern for me as a parent. I don't feel like a police officer in an elementary school makes my kid safer. I worry that it would actually make him less safe, simply because of the brownness, not gonna lie. But I don't know what the options are that you guys have been provided. I would hope there's more than just these few that we've heard tonight. And then also the issue of budget is very concerning, that some people have brought up, that you're not supposed to talk about budget, or you're not supposed to look at budget right now. That makes zero sense to me. I'm not really sure why you would be instructed not to do that. I don't want money taken away from the teachers. I don't want it taken away from the schools to put a police officer in there. I mean, our teacher has had to ask for glue sticks at least 6 times this year. So, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous to think that you guys weren't offered the option of budgets and given that, especially if it's going to be taking money from the teachers. So, bottom line is, this is a whole new era for some of us as parents. We are having a hard time learning how to parent in a world where school safety is an actual issue. And I don't think that a police officer in the schools is the right answer. So.
Thank you, Ms. Ballou. If I can have Omar Kadir at this microphone, and Mr. Shirilla, you can begin.
Thank you. My name is Matt Shirilla. I have a daughter at Round Rock ISD and a son at Walsh. And thanks everyone for your time. I know it's got to be a lot of work, and yeah, all these voices. So my exposure so far to the Sheriff's Department resource officers has been very positive. You know, the little experience I've had with them. So I really like them, but I see in this letter here it says that that these resources could go away from us. So I feel like we need to have something to replace that, okay? And I want to allude to something Mr. Humphrey said back here about relationships. I think that's going to be the really big thing here. I don't know if you've ever been in a scrape or two at school, but I have, and I know that I think if, like, with the resources we had in the school I went to, where I'm not even sure they're police officers, honestly. I think they're security guards. I think if they had called PD, things would have been a little different for me, perhaps, in life. And until only unnecessary. I mean, you call these guys in from the outside, I mean, they're used to enforcing the law on people. I think you need those relationships in the schools to provide that humanity. Anyway, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Shirilla. You may begin, Mr. Kadir.
My name is Omar Khader, Round Rock resident. I am not a parent, but in the last year and a half, I learned something extremely important, that people closest to the problem are closest to the solution. Can you, if you were on the mic tonight, can you raise your hand if you were under the age of 18? Raise your hand if you were a student at any of these schools that we're talking about. I'm confused, especially some of the individuals in front of me. I've met some of your kids, and they're extremely bright individuals. I personally am impressed. I'm a former candidate on a ballot. For candidates and for the elected officials in the room, we need to hear the people closest to the problem. I mean, this is a town hall of the community, and I encourage parents to take a second seat to their children and make sure they're up on the mic answering these questions and talking about their feelings, because they're the ones who are here in these buildings the most.
Thank you, Mr. Kadir. I don't think we had any more people signed up. Okay. And so as we wrap up tonight, I just wanted to make sure if there was anything else to tell you guys. And one of the things we did want to let you know is we're currently getting ready to send out both a student survey and a parent survey so that we can reach people in other formats other than the town hall if they're not able to come to this. We will also be doing this again tomorrow night. We're at Cedar Ridge tomorrow night, same time. If it's a question I can answer, not on behalf of Round Rock ISD, I will do my best. Yes, ma'am. Multiple languages is my understanding. Whether or not the surveys will be in different languages, and we have Spanish, and is that the only language? And Mandarin. We're currently getting the translation, but the intention is yes. Yes, ma'am. I don't have the answer for you. I just know we're targeting students and parents in the next surveys.
Okay. Now, how about a survey
hear you. I hear you.
I think one point needs to be made.
Yeah.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And the problem is when you lay so much control on an administration that holds people's jobs and people's children, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
All right. So I do want to tell you all that we have one more person who would like to speak. Melissa Hoskin. Come on up.
I don't feel like I need to give you a resume. If you have a question on how I've served, you can ask me. Some of you know me. I have a scholar at Christian Middle School, and I also have a scholar at Anderson Mill Elementary School. And just so you parents know, Anderson Mill is a very diverse community school. One of our APs was just here earlier, and there's a lot of needs at that school. It's a Title I school as well, and the staff there works very hard to build a good, strong, diverse community with its staff and work with the community there. So my goal in serving is not a political goal, but my goal is to help be a voice for those scholars and those parents and those caregivers who aren't able to be here tonight. And I'm also learning about diversity and about being culturally sensitive, because like I was talking with some friends today, I'm about as white as you can get. I'm from small town farm girl in central Iowa. So a lot of times, I could appear not a trustworthy person or like I have an agenda. But I just want you to know there's some questions in the room about SROs and what they are, and I challenge you to do the research on that and look into that. There's questions about budget. We have very caring board members who are dedicated to working towards that budget and educating all of you about that. Corey Vessa is one of our trustees, and she's in the Westwood Feeder Pattern. Follow her Facebook page and follow her website. She takes great notes and documents all the things on there. So if you have questions, she's a great resource, and she also has experience in political policy. So if you have those kinds of questions, be sure and reach out to her. Unfortunately, my family was very close to a situation that happened at Grisham Middle School. There was a scholar who brought a gun to school. His intention was to not hurt others, but just to look cool or whatever. My oldest daughter was sitting next to that scholar when they pulled him out of class. And I just want to tell you all that you can't get any closer to a crisis situation happening but not happening, okay, than that kind of situation. And there were kids of all color in that room, and anything could have happened that day. And I'm really glad that Officer Kiernan was there, and I know he works very closely with Officer Pete, and I'm not worried about what's going to happen. My kids, where they are, I don't live in Round Rock, so we have a different experience where we are, and I can only speak to my own personal experience. But I do know that the officers, the APD officers that we have in our neighborhood, the Wilco officers, and our SROs that are in our school in the Westwood Feeder Pattern are very dedicated to keeping our kids safe. That's what I can speak to. I don't know what the best solution is, but I challenge you all to ask more questions and to find the answers and do the research and look into the resources that you do have while you're making these recommendations to the board.
Thank you, Ms. Hoskin. We do have another speaker, Commissioner Terry Cook.
I actually thought I was going to sit here and be quiet tonight. And there's two areas I want to talk about. One is that in Williamson County, in our juvenile justice system, they work with those kids from a basis of trauma-informed leadership and what a difference it makes. And I have spoken with Sheriff Chody about what would you think about being trained, your SRO officers being trained in the very same thing. He's willing. He's willing. And his issue was not that I want to get out of the schools. He's got guys that love being in the schools. Lots of parents who love his guys. But there was somebody wanting to mess with the contract. And it's like, you know what? You got to leave the sheriff's department, law enforcement alone. They are not there to enforce school policy. They're there. But those guys have hearts of kindness. And they're very special officers who choose to do the work of an SRO. Second thing that hasn't been brought up, and yet your consensus here is to broaden safety. I have been working with people from this school and the school next door, and even Patsy Summer, because you know what? The kids don't have a safe way to get to school. And by golly, the school district has got to stop designing schools that are an absolute disaster for getting your kids to school. Now, I realize there's not a lot of land, and they got to buy land where they buy land. This road out here was supposed to be 45-mile-an-hour road. Now it can't be, because what do we got? 2 schools, we're going to have a third. So all of a sudden now it's a parking lot 2 times a day, 10 months a year. And the schools always have taken over one of our roads to be a parking lot to get kids to school. Get that traffic on the campus and make it safe so kids aren't crossing the cars. I realize, again, there's a cost, but a life is worth a lot. And these 2 schools are just sitting here waiting for some kid to be run over by some parent who's trying their best to drop their kid off and get to work. And I get it. But we are going to be changing. You parents who are here, these 2 schools, the county and the city of Austin are working together today. I think we have a complete interlocal agreement that, of course, may not be the final version, but it's going to Austin to get their approval first and then come back. But I really think you guys have the ability to start influencing school planning, and by golly, you're going to be building a lot more schools, because as soon as they build a house, you got 2 more kids in the school district. So step up, step out, and speak up. Fix the school campuses to be safe for the parents and the kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cook. All right. One last check if we had any other people who signed up. Nope. Okay, so again, we will be doing this again tomorrow night. We will send out student and parent surveys, and I just want to personally thank you all for being here. As a task force member, you guys have lit my soul on fire. I feel very empowered by you guys, so thank you.